Hello my friends. As you can see here, got a lot of water. My whole yard is super saturated. That's a beautiful day. Some clouds rolling in. Looks like we're gonna have more rain. Neighbor's dog saying hello. But yeah, here's this gonna be a quick little video on what happens when you get a lot of rain. And what does it do to your soil? And you can see here from the tracks that the lawn tractor is left on the lawn. It's super saturated. The water is forming standing ponds. In the front, it's even worse. It'd just take longer to walk back here to finish off the video, but yeah, in the front, ducks are swimming around basically. The water's good 8-10 inches deep in some parts. Yeah, it's all come up. This is my biochar production. Can't have a fire underwater. I don't have that welding license. So what happens to the soil? What happens to your organic garden when you get endless days of rain? We've had 3 weeks now where it's rained virtually every day. As you can see here, oh, I had a step on it. Oh, water coming up. Well, the grass still growing, dandelions, yeah. So, you have a garden. You know, this is a great area. I've often thought, you know, just open up this lawn here and drop in some crops. You know, you can produce a lot of food in this little strip. And usually it doesn't fill up with water. But weather has its cycles. And if we're in a wet one right now, you know, I'm sure this is perfectly natural. This doesn't happen every year, maybe once every 5 or 10 years or something, I'm not sure. It's the first time I've seen this much water in the yard for this long after the snow melted. More over here. So if you have your garden in the ground, you're relying on that for your food production. And you get all that water, what's it going to do to your garden? And as you can see here in my garden, it's in raised beds. Even though it's been raining quite a bit. Well, the ground is quite moist. Squeeze any water out of it. Well, so as you can see, the raised bed is the solution to standing water on the ground or a lot of rain. Doesn't matter how much water you put through these, it will drain out, and that's why it's important to mulch them so the sun and wind doesn't dry out your topsoil. So what does all that water do in the garden? Well, for one, if it doesn't drain away, like in the raised beds I have, which is one of the reasons I have raised beds, it's one of the benefits of them, is the drainage. You can't control Mother Nature, but you can control where you plant your vegetables. And if you're relying on your vegetables to make it through the winter, coming winter, and they're damaged by sitting in water like this, or saturated soil, doesn't have to be standing water, but if the soil, you know, if you press down on it and water comes up through your toes or whatever, it's saturated, super saturated. Okay, so first of all, roots need oxygen. So when it rains this heavy for this long and water starts sitting on top and the soil's super saturated, the water is replacing the air that's in the soil. and it's creating an anaerobic environment. So all the things that live using oxygen start dying off or dying back, and the roots suffer. So if you have seedlings and it's a wet spring and they're sitting in really wet soil, it's going to stunt their root growth, which is going to lead to problems all season long. So you have reduced root growth, root health, reduced health of the microbes and microorganisms that are symbiotic to the plants growing in your yard or garden or wherever, forest. Then with limited root growth, you're going to have smaller leaves and less leaves on your plants. So to start the season off, your seedlings will have stunted roots and smaller leaves. Now this is really important for farmers because even as little as 48 hours of sitting in saturated soil, or super saturated soil, can damage your yield for your corn, soybeans. So it's not something farmers enjoy. And then also through the process of leaching, all the water coming down on your soil, the third big thing it does is lower your soil fertility. Now, nutrients in the soil will wash out with the water, especially the nutrients that is ready to be used for plants. Plants uptake the nutrients in solution, dissolved in water for the most part, and so if it dissolves in water for the plant to uptake, it'll dissolve in the rain. There's standing water sitting on top, and then gravity will pull the nutrients along with the water through the soil. So to stop your plants from losing nutrients and being damaged by the saturated soil, raised beds are the solution. You can put these virtually anywhere. One of these beds could be sitting on the standing water over there. It's 16 inches off the ground, mine are. A lot of beds are typically about 8 inches off the ground, 10 inches about there. I like them a little higher so seeds don't blow over the side, and dandelions and grass grow pretty tall. But yeah, the saturated soil, how do you know if your plants are being damaged by the too much water in the soil? One way to tell, obviously you'll know there's lots of water in the soil, so you'd be looking for things, is a yellowing of the leaf. I don't have any to show you because I'm not having that issue, but if you look at a leaf and it has water damage to the roots, which is affecting the overall plant health, which is affecting the photosynthesis of the plant, is going to affect chlorophyll production. You're going to see a yellowing of the leaf, where my thumb is, all the way around the edges of the leaves, with it still green in the middle, but a yellow band about the outside of the leaf. Alright, now there's a problem with light, not getting enough light, say for a house plant or something, or the wrong kind of lights, using artificial lighting that's not good for the growth cycle the plant's in. But outside, you shouldn't have that problems with the sun. If your plant is a sun-loving plant, is in the shade too much, you might see a little bit of that. But if you have root damage, it'll definitely show up. And another sign which I also can't really show because I'm not having the issue, even though it's raining every day for weeks here now, at least 3 weeks, is a purpling of the leaf. During photosynthesis, the plant is creating sugars, and excess sugar is sent back down into the plant to the roots. Now, if your roots are damaged from sitting in saturated soil, this process is interrupted, and a surplus of sugar will build up in the leaves, and you'll see a purpling of the leaves. I might actually have one pepper plant. No. Oh, here it is. Here it is. I do have an example to show you. This plant got damaged in the seed tray. It was left in there too long, and soil was super saturated because I had set it out at the beginning of this rain cycle here to harden off outside. And the rain basically washed right through the tray for hours and hours, and this was one of the last plants in it. And if you can see that, there's a purpling of the leaf all around here. Okay, this was caused by damage to the roots. Now the plant does recover. You can see the new growth is green and healthy. It wasn't sitting in there very long. I wouldn't say like 48 hours. I'd say more like 24. You know, overnight, until I noticed it the next day from the previous afternoon or whatever. It might affect the development of the plant. It does have less leaves on it, and it's not making like little fruiting buds like this one is. You know, they're the same age, or even this one here is a little more developed. But I can't say, you know, that's not scientific. But that is damage from saturated soil, but in the seed tray, not in the ground. So yeah, so if you're worried about your garden, it is in the ground, and you go out to look at it, and those are the two visible signs of stress to the plant from its roots being damaged. Now, how do you mediate that? And your crop's already in. You know, you planted your spring crop, and like I said, you know, this is the food you're growing for the winter. And like, you know, whatever washes out all your carrots. You know, your potatoes rot in the ground. I'm not entirely sure what my solution would be, knowing that the possibility is that this area floods. I wouldn't grow in it without raising mounds or beds, or well, you have to re-landscape it and grade it and put in some sort of drainage, French drainage or something. That might even work, just dig a trench. But yeah, so now raised beds will deal with that. So it takes the unpredictability of Mother Nature from one year to the next, whatever cycle you're in. If you're in a, you know, wet cycle, dry cycle, it takes all the extremes away. You know, like you're not going to go out and your garden is flooded, right? But on the other hand, if it's dry, you know, raised beds do need a lot of irrigation. These are hugelkultur to help mediate for that, which also helps in this instance. You know, you're getting a lot of water, it needs to go somewhere. It soaks up in the wood underneath. And my beds are all dug down into the earth as far as the clay level, which is not very far down. Maybe, you know, let's see how far that is. Yeah, so maybe 6 inches, maybe. And this is why the soil's getting saturated. It rains and rains. It doesn't soak through this very well, and it gets trapped between the standing water on top and here, and this layer is super saturated, and that's where all your roots are. It's also nitrogen depleting mostly. It does leach out all the other nutrients with gravity and water solubility, right? Like it washes them down through the soil underneath where the roots can't get to it. But nitrogen, because air is mostly nitrogen, and the water is replacing the air in the soil, it takes out a big piece of the nitrogen cycle, the natural nitrogen cycle in your soil. And also standing water exacerbates that nitrogen depletion with the air. So if you have standing water in your garden, it's definitely depleting your nitrogen levels. Farmers mediate this by applying nitrogen, a high nitrogen fertilizer, after the ground's been wet for, like I said, more than 2 days. Can damage the yield of an entire season's crop of corn or soybeans. And yeah, use your imagination, whatever you're growing that has a root system, which is pretty much everything you're growing, unless you're growing water irises or something. It's going to affect your yield. So how do you mediate the nutrient loss? Right, you can stop the root damage and stunted growth to your plants by making sure the soil's well draining, digging beds, putting gravel, some sort of drainage system. Raised beds solve that problem real easy. Even if you're only raised 6 or 8 inches off the ground, it's going to raise those roots up above the saturation level, the saturation in the soil level, just physically, I mean, by raising it up a couple inches. So yeah, lots of rain, and it's washing through the soil, and it's washing all your nutrients out of your organic garden. And you're not a farmer, you don't have lots of money to spend on expensive fertilizing or mediating the effects of that over the years. So what I do to mediate nutrient leaching in the soil, sorry, there's 1,000 mosquitoes around me now, they've discovered me, is adding charcoal, biochar. There's some of it here. And this holds bonds with all the molecules that are used as nutrients, positive and negative charged molecules, unlike clay, which just bonds with the positive charged molecules, I believe, the cation ions. So all the rain washing through the soil is not washing the nutrients that are bonded with the charcoal. And the water itself, if it does bond, or if nutrients become solute in the water, if it dissolves nutrients, there's a good chance that water will bond with the carbon. There's all kinds of complicated chemical process going on when you introduce the carbon into an organic garden, but it really is the key. So it can rain all it wants, and the ducks can swim around on my lawn, but all my plants are safe, showing no signs of stress from the weather. In fact, quite the opposite. All this water, fast draining water, nice moist soil level, is bringing my plants all up real good. So I don't have anything that's not growing good. I got berries all over these bushes, strawberries coming up. I didn't think I'd get any strawberry plants survive, but yeah, I got big flowers on there. It's gonna be nice jumbo strawberries. Looking forward to it. But yeah, so take some of the guesswork out of Mother Nature. Take control of your garden. Hugelkultur raised bed with biochar enriched soil and mulch on top is the way to go. I do believe I have great success even in adverse weather conditions. You know, looks like I got a beaver dam in my yard. Yeah. There's my beaver dam. It's my pile of wood I was planning on burning as soon as the melt from the snow cleared, but it started raining right after the snow melted, and this water's had nowhere to go. And I do live in a sort of wetland area, so yeah, it's turning back into its natural state of wetland. Like I said, there's ducks in the front yard. There's ducks along in the ditch too. They're in the ditch more than they are in the duck pond, so there must be something good to eat in those ditches. But well, I'll let the airplane pass and get the airplane on. Oh yeah, of course it'll fly into the sun or whatever. I don't see it. I'm blind. But anyways, yeah, well, thanks for watching, and hope you'll consider raised beds, hugelkultur, and using biochar. And if you follow along on my channel, I'll show you how to do all those things, and show you all the great different perspectives on why and how it works so well. So have a great day whenever you watch this, wherever you are, and thanks for watching.